Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. We're here for the next round of this championship in Season 6. Welcome to Texas and the United States Grand Prix. It is myself, Jota, alongside Joseph, your usual co-commentary preparing for tonight's race. And we have to get straight into it, Joseph, before we do any kind of sort of housekeeping in this one, because we're going straight into qualifying, because of course it is sprint week.
It is indeed our first of, I think, 5 again this season. Very, very exciting indeed. I'll just quickly run you through the format before we see cars on track. We will do a one-shot sprint qualifying. Everybody will be able to take part in this one. We'll get to more on actual qualifying in a little bit. We will have a sprint race tonight of 10 laps. There will be a mandatory pit stop in those 10 laps. I know, it's getting crazy here in the Legacy Division. We will then reset the lobby and then go again for short qualifying and then your usual 28-lap race. We'll see that 5 times over this season. It's the first of 5 here this evening. ET8 often very good. Can they continue their fine form in the sprints?
I think it would be wise to not really call this one a sprint then, if that's the case, because of course if you're having to commit to the pit stop, then it's not really a sprint, so we'll call it race 1, race 2, shall we, in its actual definition. So all the drivers are now getting themselves ready for this very quick qualifier then, because of course it'll be the one-shot quali, as said, and then the 10-lap sprint before we take a break and then head off obviously into the main event. So drivers getting themselves ready for this one. We'll go through all of the drivers, of course, after this qualifying session is concluded, but with 25 seconds to go, very quickly, Joseph, off of the back of last week, Shazoo look like they're on top.
Yeah, they do. Again, much earlier getting that first win than they did last season. So important to get themselves off the mark with a win as well. And one over, if you like, on ET8. But they're still right there in the fight after a couple of second place finishes at the start of this season. I've called it role reversal. It was Shazoo getting all the second places last season. Now, if ET8 don't get anything on the board tonight, that may well continue. We've got cars on track, Jota. Here we go for the one lap we will see of Texas.
Yes, the one lap, of course, we'll be seeing of Texas in this particular session. Then, of course, leading the way, going through into turn 1, AMR immediately showing the pace, but Silo, no surprises, is up there at the moment, racing alongside the likes of Nico. Dom just trying to get some inroads, but a really poor turn 3 has seen him lose some position. So ET8 still leading the way from Ventari's Lafiti as well. Ever the crowning name is Lafiti. Ryan Bakar immediately showing the pace as well in the old TTM name. Oscar now up into P3 as well. Mateo trying to battle it hard. Silo and Ryan are really trading positions at the moment as well. Here's he going, and then chucking in the car down to the DRS straight. Then Ryan and Silo very close. We're talking hundredths of a second separating the pair of them at the moment, looking very sharp indeed. Ryan, though, pulling down the straight here. Lower downforce setup maybe on the back of the Ferrari at the moment as well. Rassenberg is not taking part in this qualifier as well, his teammate down in 20th. Back to Silo, though. It's a really poor corner from Ryan, actually. I think he spun out. He's down in P17 now, all of a sudden. So now Silo is battling out with the likes of Oscar, and that's the Shazoo Cedar Igniter, looking to try and get in there as well. Now, we know Oscar, typically known for his ability in the third sector around here, so this is where we'll see the car really thrown in to the turn 19-20 complex then. Oscar looking like he's going to be anywhere near, but Silo again battling really hard. Could be hundredths of a second here for pole position in the sprint. And it is only hundredths of a second indeed. Silo, ET8 are on top. The Shazoo Cedar Igniters are in second place. No surprises, the top 2 teams are navigating at the front too. But very, very close margins indeed.
Exceptional around this track certainly was in console tier 1, where he puts it on pole position, gets off to an absolute flyer here this evening over Oscar, who had that dominant win last week. ET8 also in third, sort of sandwiching, and then of course you've got the checkerboard pattern with Justin in 4th. What a sprint race grid we've got, as we see the likes of Ryan, Quantum, Gavroche all disqualifying themselves due to an invalidation. Big names at the bottom, your usual front runners at the top. As we go into race 1, this could really get exciting with a pit stop and the undercut potential.
Yep, so quick review then of the drivers that just took part in this one as well. And of course, we've got a few bits and bobs to handle as well in terms of housekeeping as well. So Caden and Quantum at the top. Ryan and Nico both serving qualifying bans for RSC tonight in the main race. Lafiti, Gavroche, Oscar, Justin, and then Leonardo and Giovanni. Matteo from Silo, Phil from Sieb, and then major qualifying bans at the moment. AMR and QRT both serving qualifying bans. Late arrivals of their drivers. Then Turbo serving a qualifying ban for EVR. Schumacher racing alongside him tonight though. So a little bit of a mixed bag. We're not really that far into this championship. Qualifying bans already kicking off.
Yep, absolutely. 7 going into tonight. The 7th has just been announced as EVR, swapping out Connor for turbos. And, well, I'm going to have to reacquaint myself with the order that the drivers will line up in. AMR will be at the back, but one of them will start last due to a 3-place grid penalty for a qualifying incident last week. I think that was a crashing on purpose. QRT, like AMR, submitted their lineup a little bit late. And RSC, they, I think, met the threshold for 15 penalty points as well as a qualifying incident last week. So again, in the order that they were applied, RSC will go first, basically. It's a bit confusing qualifying when we get to it, but I mean, surely not much impeding tonight.
Well, I mean, if we're going through the main full qualifying as well of Q1, 2 and Q3, it would have made no difference in Q1 because with 7 knocked out, we'd see all 5 eliminated straight away, go straight through to Q2, and another 2 would be knocked out. So very quick in terms of qualifying here tonight, so that is for certain. Either way, we are going to be heading for the sprint race in just a few short moments' time. ETA showing immediately out the blocks that they've got the pace in the 1-lap differential. Question is, will the 10 laps with that mandatory pit stop as well, remember, for race number 1, will that one cause a little bit of a question mark, because undercutting round here is extremely powerful, so surely we're going to be seeing some very early pit stops in this 10-lap, again, hesitant to call it a sprint race, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of drivers go on to softs, but equally a lot on mediums as well. They might try and extend or go a little bit longer into the race, though there is no safety cars, so I think that probably wouldn't be particularly wise thing to do. I think make an early pit stop, see if you can undercut, use the clean air, and see where you come out later on in the race. There's a lot of possibilities here, not really giving it much thought, but here we go.
Here we go with the drivers getting themselves ready. They're going to be going for the first race of this season, that is a sprint. We're in a sprint in Texas, and Silo leading the way then from Oscar and Matteo, getting a really good jump as well, and ETA immediately trying to show the pressure, but Justin just hanging out behind as well. Happy to take any positions where any are lost in front of them, but no surprises, the front team's getting into their own battle. Silo going side by side with Oscar, as Oscar then takes the lead of this race. It's a great start from the Shizou Cedar Igniter. Sieb also in the mix as well for IRT, looking fairly strong as well. Off of the track ever so slightly, Dom battling with the likes of Leo at the moment, who's really trying his hardest here to try to hold on, but around the outside he will go. AMR Dom getting a really wiggle on through that particular sector, really struggling. Sector 2 yellow flags waved already. We've got a slow car of Gavroche at the back as well in this one. We're going side by side towards the back as well. Rassenberg and Glow at the moment trying to get in their own mix, but then Rassenberg losing a position to Ventauri's Lafiti on that particular stretch of this lap. So lap 1 of 10, we're just about halfway through at the moment. It looks fairly steady, but in that midfield it's getting incredibly tight here, as we've got a Williams going diving down the inside of Nico against 2 or 3 drivers and getting the move done, and now he's up to 7th.
Yeah, both Astons really in the war. Some more contact there with the Williams of Nico on his outside. He'll go for it again here down the inside at turn number 15. Yet more wheel-to-wheel contact between the two of them. Leo will hold the inside going into the triple right-hander, and of course cuts out some of the distance around this long corner, but Nico just hangs on around the outside using a little bit more battery deployment. What a chaotic opening lap for the pair of them, as Leo does go in for the lap 1 pit stop. He'll surely bolt on a set of mediums now until the end of the race. Quantum, who started back due to an invalidation, has joined him.
Yes, so early pit stops now are going to start. I can't remember, this is a circuit really known for its undercutting ability, so won't be any surprises if people have elected to decided to go down that particular path of committing to that undercut early on. That's why we've seen so many people electing to start on the soft tyre, but we have got a few on the medium. Critically, one of them actually a Shizuki the Igniter of Justin. He's elected to start on that medium tyre. We've got a spinner, by the way, and it looks like it's gone for a spin. It looks like Gavroche Ventauri really struggling out there at the moment already. We've got Lafiti down in P14. Gavroche has gone for a spin and is in P18. It looks like his rear tyres are overheating as well, so he's losing all of the grip on that rear end. But as it stands so far, Justin on a new set of medium tyres on the compound lighters. We've got people battling towards the front once again. Oscar and Silo getting in their own battle. Remember, DRS available immediately at the end of the first lap, so they're still going side by side at the moment. So Silo and Oscar, this is particularly strong here from the ET8 man, who now retakes the lead of this race ahead of Oscar, but they're still going side by side through the treble right-hander in the third sector, but looking fairly strong for the ET8 man on this occasion, who now takes the lead of this race. We've got a spinning car at the back. It looks like Rayan Bakar has gone for a spin, and Oscar into the pits.
Then they've decided against continuing that battle. They are now going to go head-to-head virtually through the pit stop phase. Matteo does follow Oscar in as well. I think that's a wise thing to do, just to keep one of the SCI cars on their toes, and you never know, Matteo might even have the opportunity for a clean run down the back straight. This second and third sector, I must say, is really promoting some fantastic racing already. Saw it in Console Tier 1 a couple of weeks ago. I think on the final lap, I think it was Francesco and Epic Vale. Oh, God forbid saying that name. They had a great battle. We're seeing some more of that tonight, and it's only the sprint.
Only a sprint indeed. Williams looking fairly strong. That's Team QRT member serving the qualifying ban here tonight. But Nico looking fairly strong now up to P4, but of course yet to serve his first pit stop of this race as well. We're surely going to be expecting the rest of the soft tyre runners in imminently, if not at the end of this lap. Justin getting closer and closer and closer to Silo. Happy to take that position, no issues whatsoever. Remember, on a medium tyre, so he will go longer into this sprint race than he will versus Silo, who is actually derating at the moment, really struggling with his electrical energy at the moment is Silo. So is he on a push at the moment, just going to use the best of these soft tyres before he picks?
I want to only say as well, the softs might only be good for a couple, maybe 3 laps here at most. I mean, I'm already seeing Justin starting to get better traction. Yes, we can't really factor in how much grip mid-corner because of the dirty air, but yeah, Silo struggling. He's into the pits. Oh, Justin makes a late call as well. I think he was watching his wing mirrors virtually there, looking behind him to make sure that Silo was coming into the pits, and then he left it late to get in to the left-hand side of the bollard, of course, and react to what Silo was doing. Again, same lap pit stops for ETA and SCI. We'll see where their respective teammates come out. They're actually side by side through the final corner. This is incredible. Oscar with the traction on the exit of turn 20. Matteo back in the slipstream. Where do the two rivals come out? They're going to be 3 wide into turn 1. Alpine and Mercedes as Matteo gets the up and under. Now he's wheel to wheel with his teammate Silo, and he just tucks in between them both.
Yeah, Oscar not able to get the jump on that one. Justin then leading the way on a new set of medium tyres as well. Now, I am going to quickly just pull out a question mark here for you here. So, Justin started on a medium tyre. You have to do 1 mandatory pit stop. But can you do 1 mandatory pit stop and still be on the same tyre? That would be my question here. Go a quick one there for Luke, who can let us know on here. Or do you have to use 1 separate compound? So we'll have to just keep an eye on that one, because if that is the case, Justin's actually at fault for a potential infringement, tyre infringement, if he doesn't pit again, if that is the case. We'll keep an eye on that. As it stands, though, the front 3 yet to make their pit stops, of course. That's Rayan, Phil for IRT, and Flexus AMR. Now well, it's going to be a considerably old set of soft tyres. Yeah, this is peculiar here. Can be the same tyre. That's the question here. So, actually, if that is the case, why is everyone elected to start on the soft tyre and not done a double medium stint? Are they hoping to just have a spare set of mediums for the main race, I wondered here, Joseph? Because that means Justin has always had significant grip on the first stint.
We're getting a restart, so the tyre allocations will be completely fresh. So I don't think that comes into it. Perhaps rather just hoping for a good start, do a couple of laps, and then, of course, go on to the mediums. Perhaps it's just that initial sort of opening few laps that they wanted the soft tyre for. But, yeah, you're right. I think maybe a sort of a split on the medium might have been the better shout. Justin has now been on the medium tyres. He knows what they're like, and he's in a very good position to go on and take the race win.
Yeah, that's critical, isn't it? Because Justin now is in a position where he's not just got used to the medium tyre, but of course he has been able to sort of get the jump on people who've decided to have a longer soft stint when the softs were falling off. So as a result of that one, Justin had that little bit of extra grip on 1 or 2 laps, and it's helped benefit him massively. So the Shazoo Cedar Igniter is in prime position here for potentially winning this race, but he does have a very quick silo behind, of course, with the DRS available now as it's open, and it will get closer and closer and closer. But one thing we do know is Silo was struggling with his electrical energy throughout that first stint here, so he's got to just keep that one in check with 5 laps to go in this one. Otherwise, Matteo and Oscar happy to swallow up any positions lost, and of course Team QRT and Samuel Barker, also in close proximity as well. So yeah, interesting stuff to say the least. We're surely expecting Phil in at the end of this lap, and there he is. So that will be the last of the mandatory pit stops that need to be taken. So Justin will take the lead of this race with Phil now pitting. As it stands so far though, Shazoo Cedar Igniter, ETA, Shazoo Cedar Igniter, top 4.
Yeah, Phil doing the literal 50-50 split in terms of the percentage of race distance that he's spent on each set of medium tyre. I'm not quite sure where he'll come out. I mean, he started P9, so any more positions now would be a loss down to P11, not P12, as Lafitte has quite the gap there. So still could be a decent rise back up into the points paying positions potentially for Phil as he comes out in P11. A couple of penalties as well puts him in a net P9. So keep an eye on his progress. But out in front, Silo able to just start regenerating that battery, making sure that he doesn't lose DRS range. Very easy to do so, getting caught out by the dirty air in Sector 1. But it doesn't look like that will be the case on this lap.
Just keeping a check on the microphone as well, so just let me know if there's any sort of rustling kicking in for your ear, Joseph. I think there's a little bit of an issue, but we'll see anyway. We've got Silo getting closer and closer to Justin, but no attempt at any kind of overtake just yet. 3.5 laps to go in this race. So answers on a postcard, folks. Who do you think your favourite is for the main race? One thing that is for certain is that it's going to be blindingly close in the sprint between Justin, Silo, Matteo and Oscar, because they are really just pushing each other around the circuit. And I'm wondering if ETA are going to ask Silo potentially to get out of the way and let Matteo have a pop and making a move on Justin here, or are they playing the long game, knowing that when it gets to lap 10 they can just get the DRS, work with each other and potentially get a 1-2 at the end of this?
Yeah, quite possibly. So nearly a front wing flying off for Phil as he continues mounting the pressure on Nico and going up into P9. Schumacher really struggling with the penalties, a lot of them being dished out in just the 10-lap race on largely fresh tyres for the majority of it. Yeah, still a strong chance of ETA getting a 1-2 here, though. Again, it's on Silo to timing, really. Get the move done down that back straight. Maybe just nudge Justin so much that Matteo gets involved in the fight as well, and maybe all of a sudden the Alpines can go 2 for 1 on that Mercedes. But we'll soon see Silo still having to deploy quite a lot in the first sector just to keep himself close. I think a move is coming, it's just a matter of when. Yeah,
Justin's got less ERS though at the moment versus Silo, so Justin's obviously feeling that pressure, but Silo's not going to look for the move. As it stands, it's advantage ETA. If Matteo gets close enough to Silo, they can get a double dose of DRS and is able to just get down past the leader of this race, Justin, and potentially make it an ETA 1-2. So how do the Shazoo Cedar Igniters throw a spanner in the works? They get Oscar splitting the 2 ETA8s. If they can do that one, then at least they can guarantee themselves a prime position here for a potential top 3 finish, potentially a double top 3. So Oscar needs to get in front of Matteo if they want to try and ruin ETA8 strategy here. At the moment, they can just sort of lean back and Matteo can use DRS off of Silo, recover as much energy as possible, and then when that 10th lap comes, gets overtake being used, and both of the Alpine Renaults can get past the Mercedes, and that will be it for a potential, as I said, 1-2 for ET8. Lap 8 of 10 though, we've got a couple of laps to go, and this sprint race has absolutely flown by, hasn't it, in this one as well. Barker doing a really good job for Team QRT into the top 5. Phil with the fastest lap of this race down in P9, IRT 6 and 9. And this is one thing that IRT have been doing. They did this in Hungary actually. They always seem to be in that mix, don't they? Just messing it up in the midfield. They might have been in the bottom 2 for the main qualifiers, but they are showing that they've got the pace out there.
occasionally hanging themselves out to dry in this case. Well, in the Hungary case, certainly just dropping a few positions towards the back end of the race, then often it's worth the risk. Just on Oscar, I don't think he's in the equation here because, again, it's so difficult to overtake in the train. Often you don't see it at all, and we're seeing that the action is just kind of dying down at the moment. Justin flashing away as he recovers some of that electrical energy just to be in the position to defend on the final lap as Phil now gets past Quantum. Yeah, this is really encouraging now for IRT. Trying that overcut with one of their cars might be something as well to think about for the race.
Yes, of course, it will be a little bit of a mixed bag, that is for certain as well. So we've now got there's a little bit over 2 laps now left in this race. Of course, you'll have the 9th and then the 10th lap of this one as they come across the final couple of corners. Justin still leading this race, but in the midfield we do have a little bit of battle happening here. This is perfect, the battle for P11. Caden getting the move done on Rayan Bakar and Nico. Rayan Bakar struggling and Nico getting a time penalty as well alongside that one. So Bakar now in a decent position here to potentially get P11 off of the back of Caden, of course, who has a time penalty to his name as well. So he just needs to keep it clean and he'll at least get into the top 11. This is assuming Nico doesn't put too much pressure. Banger wheels going through to turn 1. A bit of ghosting as a result of that one as well, and gets the move done going into turn 1. Rayan still in prime position for P11, but one thing is for certain, Nico is battling it really hard at the moment between them as it stands. I think you're right about Oscar, by the way. He's really not able to keep up to the back of Matteo at the moment. Well, one thing I'm keeping an eye on at the moment is Matteo isn't really keeping on the back of Silo either. So this easy 1-2 scenario isn't looking too strong. So if I was Matteo at the moment, I'd start putting using a little bit of that power and trying to get as close as he possibly can to the front 2. Sector 1 yellow flags waved, by the way, at the moment. Barker and Sieve getting into their own battle for P5, and Sieve managing to get the move done, but he has a time penalty to his name as well at the moment. So as it stands so far, Team QRT at least still with P5 after this one as well. Battle happening between Bakar and Nico continuing. Nico actually battling alongside the likes of Dom and Gio at the moment as well. We're just approaching the final lap of this one, Joseph, very quickly then. Looks like it's all going to be set in motion for Silo.
Straight head-to-head now for the final lap. He's quite close here, Silo. He's just been edging a 10th or so every single lap. We'll soon see that change, you'd imagine, coming through the first sector. If my maths are correct, both teams, SCI and ETA, that is, are scoring 17 points at the moment. So if Silo was to get this move done, then we would see a small point swing in the championship in favour of ETA. They'll take anything they can get. It's still early days in this season. They might well need it. Does he take the risk, though, Silo? Let's see, then. He comes through the end of Sector 1, just trying to hang in there on the back of the Mercedes. Yeah,
just trying to hang on here, then. But here it comes, actually, a really good exit from the likes of Justin here. Has he got enough electrical power? So late on the brakes from Silo, and he's absolutely nailed that corner, which is going to allow a potential attack here against Justin. No DRS available, of course, for the Mercedes, but the Alpine Renault will get closer and closer and closer. Is the move on, or is he too far back? He looks for it. He goes down the inside line, tries to get the later breaker, but I tell you what, Justin has absolutely nailed that last corner and has been able to put himself in actually a defensive position here. And what we thought might have been a pretty clear-cut overtake here for ETA is looking more and more like SCI might have actually got this one in the bag. Later on the brakes again from Silo, but once again Justin defending really perfectly here. Actually, it's a textbook move, actually, and textbook defending from Justin, and the Shizou Cedar Igniters, the championship leaders, who are looking so strong from start to finish in Hungary, will continue their form as he comes around the final corner, and Justin will win the sprint race here in the United States. Silo from Matteo, from Oscar. Barker will finish in the top 5. IRT 6 and 7. It's a great effort from the international racing team. Leo down in Aston Martin, they're representing HR. They will finish in 8th place with Quantum in 9th and Lafiti rounding out the top 10. Positions changing here, there and everywhere, but as it stands so far, immediately out of the blocks, the championship, defending championship winners from last time out. 2 in a row for them, trying to make it 3. Well, showing the pace immediately in the first sprint race of this season, Shizou Cedar Igniters win the first round.
The dress rehearsal for you. Justin winning that one. Points, though, dead even between the two teams. You can consider that really a 1-1 draw, because I think both teams really showed some great quality there, certainly in the racecraft, when they all just kind of re-emerged dead next to each other after the mandatory pit stop of this race. Good to see that. Hopefully it will continue on into the main race. 10 points for Justin, 9 for Silo, 8 for Matteo, and 7 for Oscar. And obviously all the way down into P10, and IRT picking up some valuable points there. Indeed, in 6th and 7th. They are not qualifying banned this evening. They'll be hoping potentially a repeat of that starting position and then going into the race as well to convert it into points. Brilliant little sprint race as we move on after a restart into the main event.
Yes, taking a quick break, of course, just as we get the new lobby set up. So there's your final results for the sprinters before we get into the main event, of course. So, quick reminder of what happened last week, if you don't mind, Joseph. I think we are going to commit to a restart, aren't we? So this lobby will close off now. Race results then from last weekend out then. So Shazoo Cedar Igniters managed to take the win with Oscar Azim in P2. Gavroche in the end finishing on the podium as well for Ventauri. So a great performance from them. QRT, very unfortunate to miss out on a podium on their debut in the Legacy division, finishing P4 with Thomas Covers. SCI managed to get Velakongan up to P5. Wasn't the best qualifying actually from Velakongan, but Ever, the consistent man himself, managing to get back into the top 5 for that one. And then other people of note as well. HR managing to get both of their drivers in the points as well, 12th and 13th respectively. IRT also getting a double points finish in 8th and 15th. So as a result of this one, this is obviously pre the results in the sprint race tonight. Shazoo Cedar Igniters leading the way on 103, only 4 points behind with ET8. Ventauri on 56, then Future Racing Team a point behind Ventauri on 55. And then, of course, you've got QRT, the Quest themselves in P5, with 36, obviously taking the points of Precision Racing from round 1. Hadrick are 6th with 22, only a point behind RSC, 21. And then the International Racing Team on 17, and then AMR on 2, and EVR on 1. So nobody with Neil Platt going into round number 2, which is always a fabulous endeavour, Joseph. But immediately out of the blocks, we were all saying, well, we think Shazoo might be 2, 2nd or 3rd in our predictions. But in the end, they're showing that they do have the potential pace to make it 3 in a row.
Going to be involved in this title race and leading still by 4 points, even when you take into account the sprint race. Ventauri with not the best of sprints. Again, looking over in that fight for 3rd. Again, they'll be hoping that doesn't last the whole season, because they are a team that really does want to get involved in the top 2 fight. Quest Racing Team debuting their new branding, their returning branding, I should say, last week with that P4 from Thomas Covers. Sign of things to come, perhaps, as they look to ingrain their old philosophies back into the team. Hadrick Racing, again, after some events kind of outside of their control, they might well be languishing in that midfield fight. EVR and AMR, some of the surprise teams at the bottom. And AMR, notably this week, I think they're now without Alex Loafer, who we saw in qualifying. In the qualifiers, I should say, was mega. Really carried them up there. Was going to be their main man for this season. Well, they're now without him.
Yeah, Loeffler obviously deciding to depart the team has meant that AMR actually then perhaps not as set out for a championship run as much as they thought they are, and are currently with 2 points as well for the team represented in the RB Racing Bulls. Could be a little bit of a spot to bother for the second Spanish outfit in this championship. Quick reminder of the calendar then, of course, we are in the United States for round number 3 of this championship. Next week we'll be taking a trip over to Azerbaijan before we wrap up this first stint in Qatar for the 5th round of this championship. We'll be taking a very short break before we head over to Mexico City for round 6, and then that treble header of Austria, Netherlands and Britain reverse. Of course, they are sprint racers as well, so more of that action that we saw in the United States will be occurring in round 7, 8 and 9 before we take a trip to Imola to round off the Halloween season on October 28. So, you know, it's going to be a fun one, this one, Joseph. Of course, the United States, typically, it's going to be one of those races where, you know, it is going to be about strategy. We are expecting the undercut to be extremely powerful at this particular race. So, question for you on this one before we get into the break, before we head into qualifying, is, you know, what is the expectation here for the drivers going out onto the circuit. They're going to, of course, going to consider the strategy. They're going to be considering a lot of other options, but surely strategy is going to be the big one.
Yeah, strategy. I think there's quite a wide pit window for medium tyres, especially around here in Kota, where you gain a lot in the first and third sectors. Very technical bits of track, slow speed and high speed coming into it. Equally, the undercut, I've kind of explored this looking at the console tier 1 race. A 3-lap undercut can gain you about 6-7 positions in a train. So keep an eye on that. We'll be seeing some decoys. We'll be seeing some of those drivers at the back of the field utilize that to get back in the mix as well. So I think there'll be a lot more position changes than we might expect through on-track racing. That's what I hope for anyway.
So that's going to be the critical one, isn't it? So we'll keep an eye out on what the strategy is going to be for the main race. We have got qualifying for the main race in just a few short moments' time, so don't go away. Should be a good one. Well, that was a cracker. We're going to keep going, and for this main race ahead, qualifying in just a few short moments. Thank you very much to every single one of you tuning in. This is WOR Legacy, and this is one hell of a championship ahead of us, because, of course, the first sprint race of this season saw, no surprises, SCI and ET8 at the top of their games, managing to trade positions in first for the SCI team and fourth for SCI, and then second and third, splitting the pair over at ET8. So a share of the points between the pair of the teams, and they will continue in their fight for the championship, and what is looking increasingly, Joseph, like it's going to be a bit of a two-horse race in this championship between the OGs of this particular esports world.
Two teams that have been going since the beginning, haven't they? Entering their 6th season between them, SCI and ET8. You can call SCI separate entity, of course, but for the sake of it, it's their 6th season as Shazoo that we all know and love. It's turning into a real cracker, this championship, and yeah, again, seeing top drivers in 2 teams tonight. Really, really relentless the way those two are pushing for the championship from the off, really.
Yes, precisely that. It should be an absolute cracker, to say the least. And speaking of cracking, the drivers are also out here as well. Now we can go into a little bit more detail about this grid. Now we've got a little bit of time on our hands. FRT then, of course, fielding Caden and Quantum tonight. Quantum, ever the quick driver, but the qualifying performance from FRT on that particular sprint race wasn't their best. It was a bit lackluster, but we are expecting a little bit more pace from a team that is actually surprisingly old. It's actually one of the older teams in this championship. RSC, Rayan and Nico both serving a qualifying ban tonight for RSC, already eclipsing the penalty point threshold, requiring them to both serve a qualifying ban. That's pretty critical for someone like Rayan as well, because he had the pace to be towards the front at the end of the sprint race qualifying, but towards the back he really struggled to make the overtake, so that could be fairly critical for the team that is hosted by a gorilla in their logo. Ventauri tonight, of course, the former NLR team. Lafitte leading the way from Gavroche. Always a pleasure to see Lafitte. He should be in good pace here tonight for Ventauri, but again, another one that suffered from a bad qualifying and couldn't make the inroads in the main race. Then, of course, the defending champion Shazoo Cedar Igniters, Oscar and Justin leading the way for them. Leonardo Giovanni for the meme team themselves. We've got Matteo and Silo at ET8, Phil and Steve at IRT. Again, keep an eye on them in the Haas, actually, because they are going to be the ones that are going to be the... well, I don't know what the best way to describe them as, but the annoying back mole, I would describe them actually, of the midfield teams, who are just able to just be that little bit annoying and take points out of the hands of those that are looking to try and maximise their races. Then we get into the unfortunate qualifying ban. So AMR and QRT both having to serve double qualifying bans tonight for fielding their drivers, ineligible drivers, late. They were late to the game, so unfortunately they won't qualify for this one. Turbo serving a qualifying ban for EVR. He's a last-minute change for the EVR. Bruce Limes, that is the Kicksaubers. Schumacher will be the sole one here tonight for them, and he didn't have a particularly great sprint race either, so it could be a little bit of a trouble for the team at the foot of the table. Joseph then, real mixed bag when it comes to the driver lineup tonight. Got a real mixed bag of OGs, but we've got some newbies out on the field, as well as some drivers not really known for their in and out pace, so could be a little bit of a mixed bag tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, already so with the qualifying bans, you'll see a lot fewer cars on the circuit than usual. Will that bring out some of the best performance in some of the drivers, or will it just ramp up the pressure, knowing that it is a really, really tight grid, certainly towards the top, and the top teams are the teams that haven't got the qualifying bans. So, yeah, whichever way you look at it, that's going to be an interesting bit of dialogue for the qualifying session. I understand that QRT was a bit of an admin error. I think that they had a bit of a change in management, and it was somebody inexperienced that didn't quite realise when the deadline was to submit teams. Hopefully they've resolved that and still come into the race with some confidence regardless. And also, excuse me, you've got some of the returning drivers as well. Obviously, Silo from last week, Gavroche, he was on the podium. Oscar, last week's race winner, all in those in their respective teams. They're going to come into this with some real confidence. I mean, it's rare you're going to get back-to-back races all season with the way the rules work. The two within the transfer window rule. So, yeah, again, hopefully they come into this with a little bit of a spring in their step, maybe going to show the others, the first-time drivers, the debutants tonight, who is boss.
That is going to be the one to watch. So we'll be taking another very quick break before we get on with the main race as well. I'm sure the lobby will be set up in just a few short moments' time, and we'll be in for an absolute cracker. So qualifying, it's only the 118-minute session, by the way, as well, so that's not a little amount of time. It should be an absolute cracker. Don't go away. Welcome back then to WOR Legacy Division. This is round number 3 of this amazing little championship of Season 6. We are coming at you live from Texas, where we should be in for an absolute cracker. Qualifying just about getting going. It is Jota alongside Joseph, your usual commentary pairing for this championship. And we should be in for, again, a little bit of a cracker here tonight, Joseph. Now we're getting into the full swing of it. Of course, all of those qualifying bans now taking place. So we're only going to have 14 runners in this qualifying session for this 16-minute run. Answers on a postcard for who you think the favourite is for pole here on this one, Joseph, because I think it's going to be incredibly close between SCI and between the ET8 team.
It's a shame, really. We've actually got some of these qualifying bans because Ryan was bidding tonight to become the first ever driver to take pole position at the same track twice. He can't do that because he's qualifying banned, so we will see another new pole sitter at this circuit this evening. Otis Lawrence took it back in Season 1, and indeed Ryan did take it last season. So, yes, we'll see a new name on that Roll of Honour tonight. Justin, Oscar, Matteo and Silo, your main force. Silo looking to go back-to-back in terms of Texas on this game cycle in WOR, as he took the pole position with a 130.421 a couple of weeks ago in console tier 1, so immediately pointing towards him being the favourite. Oscar was down in 5th for that qualifying session, so maybe not the outright favourite, but Justin, last season's race winner, again looking to become the first driver to ever win at the same track twice in the Legacy Division. He is looking to be on that front row himself.
So just keeping a firm eye as well on the first runners of this qualifying session. Ventauri have set both of their drivers out very early indeed. So Gav Roche will be the first person to set a lap. Then it will be his teammate Lafitte. Bit of a lock-up actually at the end of the DRS zone, so loses a little bit of time. It's a 1 minute 6:51 in the second sector then from Gav Roche. And to be perfectly candid with you, there is a little bit more pace, I think, than that one, but we'll see as he chucks the car then through the treble right-hander of this circuit before coming a cropper to the final couple of corners. The Red Bull RBR Honda looking like it's just going to try its best to get across the line. Bit of a wiggle coming out the corner, a bit more time lost, but the first initial lap, 1 minute 30.689. Lafitte looking to improve if he can. He comes across the line. He's well down actually, just under a second behind his teammate Phil, splitting the pair of them with a 31.047. Not a bad lap from Gav Roche, but I think there are going to be more impressive lap times coming. One of those potentially from Silo. He comes across the line right now and beats Gav Roche by just a little bit over 4/400ths of a second.
It's the start he would have wanted, Silo. I think Mercedes has come across the line and invalidated as Leo Tonelato comes across the line and goes up into P3, just over a 10th off provisional pole position at the moment. Gio also invalidated as Oscar smashes the console tier 1 pole time out the water and does a 130.334.
Matteo, while that happened, I think Matteo got completely caught off guard, had a horrible thing in there as well. And I tell you what, the drivers are doing the best that they can to get the best lap times in, but you know, it's a great effort from Oscar, but definitely completely caught Oscar off guard. Matteo completely off guard there because he ended up losing the rear, going at the bottom of the hill of the treble right-hander, chucking the car through the right-hander, and a great effort indeed from Matteo. Because, from Oscar to get that leading lap time of a 1:33.34, beating the Tier 1 lap by considerable margin. And we've still got plenty of lap time or qualifying time available.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just watching that back on the stream there, and I think he just used a little bit too much of the rumble strip, the artificial stuff on the outside of the corner, and completely just unsettled the car going in. Did well to hang on to it, I must say, Matteo. Again, already on the back foot, not getting a valid lap time in straight away. Should have 2 more attempts left in this session. So Matteo down in P9 out of 13 cars that can set valid times here, you'd hope, this evening. Justin also one of them that wasn't able to get off the mark in this session. The big name in Quantum. Again, we finished in the top 6 last week, but advantage Oscar by a long way at the start of this session.
So, answer the postcard. Excuse me. As the other lap times are going to start coming in thick and fast. In the second run anyway, as it stands anyway, we're still waiting. From. Yeah, forgive me. Sorry, I'm losing my trail of thought at the moment. I'm not particularly well going into this particular race, but we are seeing people just leaving the pit lane already. I think one of the VMTs has decided to leave the pit lane straight away. By the looks of things, it's Gav Roche who's left straight away. He thinks he can improve on that 1:36.89. So, what is the expected pole lap? Well, 1:30.334 immediately showing that the pace is out there. If we're beating tier 1 already, how much further can we go, Joseph?
I don't think I've ever seen a 29 yet on this game. I've perhaps just been watching in the wrong places, but we're already pushing close to the low 1 minute 30s, which is what I would have suggested would have been the limit for this session. I'd be very excited if we saw a 29, I must say, and that might be the ultimate aim for some of these drivers. Outlaps already, the likes of Quantum, Justin, Lafiti, Phil and Gavroche. And going back to Lafiti, not sure where his mistake came, because already to be a second off his teammate, uncharacteristic. I've been impressed by a lot by Lafiti. He was very, very good at the start of the game cycle. I thought he might have been just the impetus Ventari needed to maybe mount championship fight. Exception in the race, very, very consistent indeed, but just not quite showing the qualifying pace I know he's capable of.
Yes, I'm just keeping a very firm eye on Gavroche, who's just coming across the final couple of corners before he gets on with his lap. So 9 and a bit minutes to go in this particular session. I am putting my thoughts here in this one here about Ventari, because they've obviously got the pace to be up there. They managed to get themselves that podium, of course, last time out in Hungary. So will that pace be transpired into a potential chance of another podium here tonight in the United States? Here then, going up Gavroche up the hill. I'll let Joseph take you on a little lap as he's just chucking the car through turn 1.
Indeed, down the hill then, descending very, very rapidly indeed into the flat out turn 2. Be flat for a while yet as he keeps his foot flat through 3, 4, 5. Where does the lift come? Is it going to be through turn 6? No, still keeping it flat out. A lot of engine braking doing the work there. Then he lifts off and goes down a gear into turn 7, slowing down all the time up through 8 and 9, and then you go back down the hill once again. I must say, for a flat bit of deserty land here in Texas, done a good job to create elevation out of this circuit. Into turn 11 then, another straight line to come. Then slightly right as you go over the crest. That's where you open the DRS. Hard to spot, so opening it early is crucial not to lose any lap time on the Delta. Down then in towards turn 12, downhill braking zone, turning in as soon as possible, using a lot of inside curb to then straighten up the run into turn 13. This is where we saw some battling in the sprint race. Now through 14, and then the tricky braking zone of turn 15. Slightly off camber there on the apex. A little bit of a slide from Gavroche, who we saw losing the car slightly coming through turn 20 earlier. His foot in through 16, 17 and 18, and then down 2 gears into the left-hander of 19, where we saw Matteo go off just a few minutes ago into the final corner. How's the traction zone? Much cleaner than it was on his opening run, and there we go, getting so close to Oscar, missing out on provisional pole by 0.04 of a second. A very, very good lap there from Ventari's Gavroche.
I can't believe how dangerously close these lap times are to the tier 1 pole, considering how close or how early we are into qualifying. I'm keeping an eye on Quantum as well. Now Quantum, the FRT man, known for his qualifying pace usually here, so here he comes then across the line. Is he going to be anywhere near? Oh wow, look at that, a little bit less than half a tenth separating him from Oscar. Once again, another driver into the 1:30.3s. This is going to be blisteringly close here. Matteo, another man known for his qualifying performances in the last game. Will he be able to continue in this particular game cycle, though? He was struggling a little bit in the sprint race, but on his own with a fresh track and a fresh set of tyres around him, has he got more pace in him? Oh, Rhea stepping out though. He is not comfortable out there at the moment. Is the world champion from last time out, and he is really not finding that pace, and that could be the differentiator between ET8 getting towards the front and actually being a bit stuck in the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Really need to get this sorted out now. Matteo on the flying lap down the back straight as we speak, opening up the DRS shortly and still giving it full beans on this lap. Needs to get something on the board here, and it's a huge amount of pressure on the Italian and indeed his teammate as well. Silo is still 3/10 off the pace at this stage, but he is pushing now down the back straight. Again, using, harvesting in the first sector as kind of the engine braking does all the work for you, and then dumping all that battery down the back straight through turn 15 then for Matteo. And on he goes. I didn't quite catch his delta as I've switched between the two cars, so this will come as a surprise to me. What we do know is if he doesn't mess up turn 19, this will be an improvement. I did see him take it a lot more cautiously there. There's certainly a bit of time left in that. But what's more important is the lap he's about to set. Matteo across the line and still a 1:31.1. 10th only for Matteo.
Yes, it's only 10th as well. I remember, of course, there's only 13 people taking part in this qualifying, so 10th is well off the pace for the man looking to get towards the front. His teammate only in P4, but by 0.2 of a second, because 3 drivers all within around about 52 thousandths of a second between them at the moment. So, and that is actually 3 drivers, completely different teams as well. We've got Shizusi do Igniters at the front, FRT in second, and Ventauri in third before you get to ET8 and then the other Ventauri of Lafitte. As it stands so far though, what a qualifying it's going to be at the moment for the team currently P3 in the standings in Ventauri. Third and fifth in qualifying would be magnificent for the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Gavroche third at the moment. He took a podium in third last week. Again, a sign of how, again, doing the back-to-back races can certainly help your cause. And indeed, all of the top 3 did race last week. So, again, just going back to that, well, there you go. They're picked for a reason, and they're picked because they can give you just that little bit of life at the start of the championship. Put pressure on the rivals. Matteo struggling down in P10 as we've already explored in this session. Again, small error in sector 1. The rest of the lap was okay. Turn 19 still a bit hesitant, but it's hard to really pick where all of his lap time comes from, especially 8/10ths.
Just following Matteo then, he'll be coming into the pit lane no doubt at the end of this one. 1:31.110 for him. Silo is looking to also get in there as well, but he is just entering the pit lane, so fresh set of boots going on. Gavroche, VNT is sending their drivers out a lot earlier than everyone else at the moment. Of course, they were the first to set their lap times. Gavroche will be coming around now. Now, here's a question for you. 52 thousandths, no, not 22, no, it is, no, 52 thousandths of a second, Joseph, between Oscar and Gavroche, a little bit over half a tenth. There's definitely more pace in the car than this one, but one thing I'm kind of finding weird at the moment is he's burned through his battery, has Gavroche, so he's currently in overtake, just burning through his battery, so I'm wondering if he's getting round quickly and he's going to dive straight back into the pit lane here.
I think so. Yeah, completely jumped turn 19 and he will come into the pit lane. Never ever seen that before. Just an outlap for the love of the game, if you like. Just wanted to be out on track. Probably a new set of softs or, well it must be. Can't have wasted another fresh set just doing that outlap. I couldn't explain that for the life of me why he's done that. Somebody else might be able to offer some insight, preferably from the Ventauri camp. Has he just done that for the sake of it, or what's going on there? An actual outlap now. Both Aston Martins are out on the circuit, Leo and Gio. That's rhyming, but you won't miss those two on track together, but Gio does need a lap time on board. The only driver not to have set one, but luckily he is still ahead of all of those qualifying bands, so it won't do any harm to the grid.
Yeah, Team NPC as they were originally known now. Of course, the Hadrick Racing team, both now sending their drivers out. Matteo has also been sent out as well by ET8. They know they've got more pace in that World Championship driver, but he seems to be really struggling with the rear. And I tell you what, Joseph, I am concerned about Matteo. It's not very rare. It's very rare that I'm concerned about Matteo because usually he's got everything all ship-shape and no issues whatsoever. But Matteo is struggling with the rear with low fuel. What's it going to be like when there's fuel in the car?
Yeah, not sure at all. I mean, it's hard to really gauge his sprint race. I mean, he had a very good sprint qualifying, it has to be said, when there were a lot more drivers taking part. So, the only thing I can really point to, potential change in setup, more orientated towards what's going to be the race. But again, Park Ferme is off, so he should still be running a similar qualifying setup. Hard to see where the drop-off has come from, but what we do know is that he's going to be the third car around on this lap. So again, not really paying attention to his rivals' lap times, rather just going out on his own accord. Leo kicks us off then for the final runs of this session with 1:30 left on the clock.
Yes, so this is going to be the final set of laps then. Of course, the first person to set the final lap will be Leo, of course, represented the Hadrick Racing team, going through turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 and turn 6. Should put the car through the right-hander. Happy to take as much curb as he can through there, and then take as much curb, a couple of bites of the cherry through there, then take as much of this curve as you can without going over. A little bit more conservative, and it's invalidated. So Leo's qualifying is all done and dusted. Gio is yet to set a lap, though. We'll see if he gets any improvements through here. Another couple of bites of the cherry and understeering. Actually going up towards the top of the hill, has to slow down a little bit more than perhaps he wants to, does Gio, but he has to be a bit more conservative because of course this is his probably going to be his one and only lap. Chucking the car then through this left-hander, and then if there was any support from Leo here, he'd have actually slowed down and given a bit of a tow to Gio, considering that invalidation, but the Hadrick Racing team have decided not to go down that particular path, which is particularly weird, to be perfectly honest with you. Chucking the car through the left-hander then at the end of the DRS zone, and then taking the car around the very complex set of corners here. You can really lose the rear very quickly around here, especially if you go off camber. Goes for the wider line, and a couple of bites of the cherry again from Gio. He's not comfortable out there, to be honest with you. Through the treble right-hander, he'll take a little bit of curb here as well, and a curb there, and then of course the final couple of corners. Checker flag now out. Leo into the pit lane, a couple of bites of cherry again from Gio. So at the moment Hadrick are not looking comfortable here. There's going to be a maximum 6th place for Leo, but I think there's going to be some track evolution occurring. Gio is at the back of the grid of those that have actually qualified, so he only gets a 1:33.3. It's well off the pace in comparison. That's more like it from Matteo. 1:30.462 puts himself in front of Silo, who's looking to improve himself. 64 thousandths of a second up in the second sector. DRS now open for Silo and beats his teammate, and he's now on up to P4 as well. So good effort from them as Justin comes across the line for the Shizou Cedar Igniters. 1:30.326. His teammate Oscar can't improve, so Justin with a blistering lap time and gets into the low 1:30s. And again, a real testament to the Shizou Cedar Igniters, only separated by 8 thousandths of a second. Quantum cannot improve. He's invalidated his lap, so he's at risk from Ventauri's Gavrosho. Also invalidates at the same corner as well, so no improvement from him. Will Lafitte also do the same thing? Not on this occasion. Happy to take a little bit of a wider line to keep his lap valid, chucking the car through the final corner. And will he be able to improve from his 8th place start? He will do. It's only 7th though from Lafitte. So as it stands then, and that will be, I think, it at the moment. I think we're expecting improvement from Caden. No, he's invalidated, and Schumacher is also in. So that is the end of qualifying for the main race. Justin from Oscar. It is a front row lockout from the Shizou Cedar Igniters. Then you've got FRT through Quantum. Ventauri is in 4th place as well, with Gav Roche managing to get on the 2nd row, and it will be an all 3rd row from ET8. Not the best qualifying from ET8, but let's be candid, very close margins to determine who was going to be on the front row and who was going to be on pole tonight. 8 thousandths of a second separating the Shizou Cedar Igniter pairing.
To a 10th as well, covering the top 5. Fantastic session there in the end, looking at those lap times. Oscar so marginally close to his original lap time, only 12 thousandths down in the end on his personal best. Almost leapfrogged Justin back actually, and made it a great end-to-team fight for pole. Quantum in 3rd, really splitting the bill here with Ventauri and ET8 behind SCI, of course. Seeb and Phil again in the top 10. That's all you can ask for, really, in this sort of unique qualifying session for the team that went really, really well in the sprint race. And, of course, Gio down in 13th and last with the contender for one of the worst laps I've ever watched. That was hideous. I was wincing at that. It's not a personal attack. It was just the way there was so much hesitation into every corner. Oh, my words. The heavens have opened.
Yes! The heavens have opened, and that's going to make for a very interesting affair. There's a quick reminder of your drivers, and of course remember qualifying bans for those with the QB next to their name. Let's go back to the live stream. It is absolutely pouring it down for this main race ahead of us. We are probably going to get a queue of around about a couple of minutes before we get going in this one. Joseph, early indications suggesting the Suzuki Igniters have absolutely nailed this particular race, but now the rain falling on the circuit, oh dear, that has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works.
It has. Immediately what they do, look at the strategy menu and go, okay, when's this rain stopping, if at all? This looks heavy. This could be a balance between inters and wets immediately, so it's about making that decision. Then it's over to the setup menu. How much more downforce do you add? Oh, we're going already.
Okay,
Blimey.
here we go. We're going there. We're really keen to get going on this one. And here we go. No more waiting. Let's go racing. The Suzuki Igniters will get away with it. Sieber's immediately retired from this race. So are we expecting a race restart here? I'm wondering. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, getting straight into it, going through turn one. The Suzuki Igniters happy to continue racing here with Quantum around the outside line on these wet tyres. Of course, remember, and intermediate tyres potentially for some of the other runners as well. Losing the rear ever so slightly. You've got Gavroche from Lafitte, Silo and Matteo, who are only actually been relegated a couple of positions. Ventaro have had a great start up in 4th and 5th place from Schumacher and Phil. Leo only in the top 10 as Gio is trying to race alongside Caden at the moment as they go in battle here for P12. Side by side they will go. Dive down the inside line for the McLaren of FRT's Caden. Around the inside rather, as they go side by side, and it's a spin out between Gio and Caden as well. They were really trying to keep it up there as well. They're still going side by side despite the half spin out, and Dom also happy to get in the mix as well, losing the rear. He's on an intermediate tyre as well. Later breaker. Oh, it's very close indeed between them. There's going to be a tag slapper and straight into the back of the unfortunate nature of the RSC man of Nico Rassenberg. Really unfortunate in that little battle towards the midfield and towards the back. Gio was retired from this race automatically as well. He's had enough straight away. Shazoo Cedar Igniters still pulling away from Quantum, Gavroche and Lafitte, Silo, Matteo, Schumacher into the top 8 as well from Phil and Leo rounding out the top 10. Caden still in the battle here in this little battle happening between P11, P12 and P13. What a little bit of a mix-up is happening here, that is for certain, as Quantum has got the move done on Oscar. They're going side by side here. The wet tyre, clearly the better tyre to be on versus the intermediate around the outside of the treble right-hander for Quantum. This is precarious in the dry at the best of times, but very well taken from the FRT man, who is now up to P2.
Where do I even start? What was I even going
Whoa!
on about? They're still side by side. Oscar and Quantum. The wet tyres look quicker, as we've already tried to suggest, but Quantum only finally gets it done at the final corner. Justin has a huge lead at the end of lap 1.5 seconds already, and no DRS at this stage. So as the Inters inevitably get quicker, Justin in an unbelievable position to make WOR Legacy Division history tonight, becoming the first ever driver to win at the same track twice. Still too early to say, though. Have the drivers been caught out by that early ready up time once again, as they, sought to apply some more downforce in the menus? They might have not been able to do that. It's been chaos, though, off the start. We lost Sieb immediately. I have no idea what happened to him. Perhaps he was taking a little break before the race and wasn't expecting a ready up so quickly. And then Gio, no idea what happened. Going into turn 11, it looked a little bit shaky on purpose. It did look a little bit deliberately bad. I know qualifying was one thing, but then going into the race and starting like that is another. Again, not going to throw out anything after one lap, but what a poor start to this race.
Yeah, so I think what's happened is Sieb thought there was going to be a complete race restart, so he retired straight away. HR are claiming that Gio decided to retire halfway through the first lap because he thought there was going to be a race restart, but little note for you, he did have a wing damage, so maybe HR are just trying to play the game a little bit on that front, but we'll let you guys decide the sort of outcome of that one. Justin still leading the way though from Quantum. Gap now about 1.5 seconds. He's had a really good start as Justin. It's been a blistering weekend actually from Justin. He's on the intermediate tyre as well, so he's not on the favoured tyre considering everything, and he's still pulling a gap from Quantum on the wet tyre. But I tell you what, this rain is starting to lighten up a bit, and this is where I think the intermediate tyre will start to come some good. Silo from Matteo, 6th and 7th place. Really poor start from ET8 actually. Ventari caught completely napping by a very quick Lafitte.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I think the wet tyres will start to fall off soon. They're great for a couple of laps. It's like real life. You want to be on them to shift the heavy rain out of the way. But again, once that has passed, they are no good. It's been the same for a couple of years on the F1 game now, and a lot of people in the live chat say, why on earth are they on full wet tyres? They're going to have to pit before you know it. Again, Quantum trying to extract some pace here, but he's not gained on Justin. who is, again, is looking so much healthier in this race, and a purple sector 1 to boot for the Dutchman out in front in the lead of this race. Oscar will have to be patient, and he'll know that potentially that P2 will come back to him soon, because again, the Ventauri cars are not really gaining on Oscar. So we're starting to see that little bit of a change in the preferred tyre already. Well, we'll see by the end of this lap as Silo lines up a move here on Lafitte, burning his battery down the straight, as is Lafitte. He's trying to respond to the threat posed by the Alpine, who might well go down the inside here. Late braking potentially for Silo.
Oh, real lock-up.
Yeah, Lafitte getting it all wrong. Crossing over his arms for sure as he tries to gather that one, and he did. Somehow didn't lose any time.
Siebers confirmed that he retired because he thought it was a restart, so that's going to be a one for the question books here. Down the inside, Masilo is going versus Lafitte on the wet tyre. Let's make it clear though, whoever the person that's restarted, that got this race going a lot earlier than expected, might have caught a bunch of people off guard. So there may be some people that are on wet tyres that actually wanted to start on the intermediate but wasn't able to do so because of course maybe they were just away from their controller for just that brief moment, and unfortunately wasn't able to get the intermediate on the car. Intermediate laps are now starting to become the fastest lap of this race from Justin, so now this is where Oscar will start to come in his own with these intermediate tyre and potentially get the move back on the FRT McLaren of SCI, of Quantum, versus SCI Oscar. Gavroche is still making that little bit of a gap to Lafitte, but remember, both of the VNTs are now on wet tyres, and they are going to start to struggle with the ET8 boys, both on an intermediate. Schumacher, by the way, up to P8, but unfortunately, he's on a wet tyre as well. So this is going to be a little bit of a mixed bag, to be honest with you. I'm not entirely sure what the midfield is going to look like at the end of this one. All I do know is that the front-running intermediate runners are both SCI and ET8.
Up 8 positions on an intermediate tyre. Really good going from one of the drivers that was qualifying banned at the start of proceedings here this evening. Oscar then within 5/10 of Quantum. He'll still be getting dirty air even in the wet conditions, so he'll still have to really pick his spot in making an overtake. That gap to his teammate might widen, which actually, in the long run, if it does dry, and I've not been told about any dry weather, it will benefit SCI strategically. There's a gap between the two of them. They haven't really got to worry about tripping over each other, even 4 laps into the race. So whether they consider it a blessing, I don't know. Oscar wants to win back-to-back races, but Justin equally going for history. What matters is that SCI potentially walk away with maximum points this evening, and they've already got a really good chance of doing so unless ET8 can respond. They're also stuck behind wet runners.
Yeah, Silo getting really close to the back of Lafitte, who's doing an excellent job just maintaining the pace of around about 0.3 of a second. You can see going through the medium speed corners, the wet tyres are just simply not it at the moment as well. I've just left a message actually in the Discord at the moment amongst the drivers. We've got HR still trying to claim that Gio retired as a result of what they thought was a restart, and let's be honest with you, the only reason why it's so wet on circuit is more that crying. We've got Silo really getting up close and personal now to the back of Lafitte. I think it's inevitable at some point this move is going to be done, and that the Red Bull is going to end up being overtaken by that Alpine Renault, and it's inevitable. I think over you can see through these medium speed corners now just how much grip the intermediates are versus the wet tyre, and that is going to be a real problem then later down the line, assuming that, of course, these conditions continue to improve. For all we know, and from what I'm hearing in chat at the moment, the rain is going to continue to fall, and actually it's going to be raining all the way through the race. It's just that the intermediate is the better tyre to be on. Going down the inside line, little bump of the wheels between Silo and Lafitte, and the move surely done and dusted. He's going to use overtake as much as he can as Lafitte, and actually he has got the space actually to go down the outside line of the next corner, but Silo surely going to be able to get later on the brakes versus the wet tyre runner. He does exactly that, but it is a lock-up on the outside line. They'll bang wheels again going through the corner, but Lafitte just able to have the traction. I tell you what, this is a valiant defensive effort from the Ventauri man, who's losing time hand over fist versus teammate, but that is going to help Gavroche. Silo goes for the dive down the inside line. Surely this move is going to be done and dusted. He still has the traction out of the corner, does Lafitte, but surely around that outside line, that move is going to be done. They bang wheels once again, do the two runners here, and they continue to get a run move and the run around the outside. It's done and and dusted. Lafiti couldn't defend this one. Matteo is going to surely go for the dive into the final corner. He's looking for it. Later on the brakes from Lafiti, but he's not going to get the traction out the corner, and surely into turn one, Matteo is going to get this one done. No DRS, of course, in these wet conditions, but using overtake, and he's getting closer and closer and closer. Matteo diving to the inside then of turn number one, and the ET8 boys have got the jump. It's a switchback from Lafiti. Has he got the traction out of the corner? He'll have to go around the outside of turn number two, but the traction is there for those on the intermediates, and he's relegated to 7th.
Fantastic entertainment being provided by that defensive effort from Lafiti. He's now got Leo and Dom on his tail already as well, so this won't end for the time being. And I will just issue an apology to the team managers. Obviously, I was saying, well, why are they on wets? They were caught out actually by the readying up soon, so that was not a conscious choice. That was the game going, here, the wets are quicker, take them. And they were. The game wasn't lying, but obviously not for any longer than 5 laps. Well, we are starting to see that tide turn, and here comes Oscar now for P2. He's been held up by Quantum for an absolute age as he tries to go around the outside at turn number 12. Quantum with an unbelievable defensive effort as well, really rolling back the years with the pad traction in the wet allegations that will soon come his way. Here's the up and under from Oscar, drifting through the corner at turn 14. This is mesmerizing stuff early on in this race.
Great switch.
Gets a little bit of a slide, and again Oscar has to do the up and under. Can he find the grip round the outside? Surely he can. Will we see a repeat of the contact we saw on the previous lap between Lafiti and Matteo? No, we won't. Oscar gets through. It's clean. It's an SCI 1-2.
It's an SCI 1-2 indeed. Gap those 7 seconds between Oscar and Justin as Justin sets another fastest lap of this race. Now the wet tyre runners are going to do the best that they can to try and match the strategy of those on the intermediates. If they decide to pit now for a set of intermediates, the tyre delta between those on the old Inter and the new Inter won't be that strong, so it makes no sense, because all they're going to do is end up in a real spot of bother towards the end of this race as the what will be named next year the McLaren MasterCard Formula 1 team. Quantum, representing FRT, now relegated to P3 and losing time hand over fist on these wet tyres, which are not looking strong at all. Towards the back, we have got people who have decided to pit, by the way. Schumacher is now just leaving the pit lane. Fresh set of intermediate tyres on for him. And Caden, the other FRT driver, as well on a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Nico Rassenberg is the second person to receive a penalty for multiple warnings. First person was Samuel Barker for QRT.
Yeah, 8 finished drivers back in console tier 1 had time penalties for track limits by the end of the race, and that was run in fully dry conditions. So the wet, perhaps more likely to see a few off-track excursions, so we should say. I'm sorry, I'm just watching Lafiti. He's still putting up this defensive effort, this time against Leo. It's been going since the first corner. Now Leo gets down the inside. Can Lafiti fight this one back? He's got to watch Dom and his wing mirrors, who is going to go up the inside potentially. Oh, Lafiti had a look. This is getting really, really messy now between the two tyre compounds in particular. It's been rather aggressive from lap 1 as frustrations start to build. He's actually let him through, acknowledging that was a punt to pass. Get that into the respect montage at the end of the season. Yeah, big respect to AMR actually. Probably been told, we're a respectful team. We might not be towards the front, but if we want to do it, we want to do it fairly. So AMR demanding respect from their drivers because they want to get respect from others, and to give that position right back to Lafiti. And I think, to be fair, it makes no difference because this move is surely going to be done and dusted very quickly indeed, the wet tyre being by far the wrong tyre to be on now. Diving to the inside line then with the intermediate tyre, Dom will get that one done, no problems whatsoever. Next person to commit the murder and atrocity against Lafiti on the wet tyre will be the two RSC boys, Rayan Bakar and Nico Rassenberg. Nico Rassenberg, of course, with that 3-second penalty for track extension issues. We are 8 laps into this 28-lap race, 20 to go in this one, and so far, so good for the Shizou Cedar Igniters, who currently 1-2, but Justin still able to hold a real gap now of around 9 seconds. This whole readying up thing gets a bit deeper. The track notes from earlier actually did have a restart in after qualifying, though that was rectified, no longer the case. So everything is correct. We're running as we should be. But again, it's no surprise that that might have caught 1 or 2 drivers out that maybe didn't see the updated version. More on that as we get it. Down the inside goes Ryan Bakar, another DSQ driver, qualifying band, I should say, from the 18-minute session. And now round the outside, will he attempt to hold it? Yeah, the switchback wasn't an option because Lafiti is putting that Red Bull in all corners of this racetrack from Houston to Austin. And more contact at turn 15. And again, another, sorry, mate, I'll let you through. I want to get past you, but it wasn't clean, and I've got to let you go. Piling on the pressure now are the 2 RSC cars.
A very weird scenario here. That dry line is forcing the wet tyres to have no grip, and he was losing the rear. Whilst that was happening, Ryan Bakar was hitting the wet stuff and losing the rear because he could have been on the dry line. So trading oversteer, but Lafiti has had enough of these wet tyres, and no one can blame him. He'll now be on to a fresh set of intermediates to the end of this race. It'll be an 18-lap stint on the set of inters. Should be okay, but of course versus everyone else who will be pitting not for probably another 5 or 6 laps, that will actually be pretty detrimental, to be honest with you, when it comes to the end of the race for the Ventauri man. Really unfortunate stuff as well, considering someone once again readying up far too early at the beginning of this race caught us off guard once again, only this time at least we didn't miss the race start, to be honest with you, on that one, Joseph. Quantum still in P3, by the way, on a set of wet tyres. He's holding his own pretty well, is the FRT man, but Silo really starting to breathe down the neck of the McLaren MasterCard Mercedes. Here he comes then, does AR-ET8 Silo. He might be looking for it. He is using overtake, but he is starting to get now down to the depths of low battery, and that derating could pose a bit of a problem for any kind of future overtaking, because of course without the DRS, he needs every ounce of power in the back of that Renault power unit.
Lots to give in terms of the battery power right now as well. Reduced harvesting now towards the back end of the lap, of course, makes a huge difference. You're not harvesting as much energy in the back end of the lap, so that does make it difficult to try and conserve, and he does now get past Quantum with a move at turn 15. It's where we're seeing all the action this evening. Really the slowest corner of the circuit, isn't it? So no surprise we do see the disparities between the inters and the wets coming in there. Quantum really struggling, got to make a decision. Stay out and hope that the inter runners might have to make a decision on their tyres as well, or come in, just take the hit and go onto the inters as well. Gavroche has done exactly the latter, as he's now come in for a change of tyres.
Yeah, we still are trying to figure out actually who the fault, or which driver was at fault for actually readying up a little bit too early in this one. And if we can't figure it out, then we'll just blame Vanna Spinoda again in this one. Schumacher, 3-second penalty for his troubles as well, and that's another person guilty of track limits extensions. Fair play to Quantum, still holding his own, but the gap ever rising against Silo, now 1.6 seconds as he's now approaching the top of the hill. Justin now 10 seconds in front of his teammate Oscar. I know Shazoo Cedar Igniters will be happy with the performance now of both of their drivers, now 5 seconds near enough between them and the nearest driver in Silo, but 10 seconds for Justin. It's an individual performance so far from Justin, which just needs to be recognised. What a great race weekend actually it's been for Justin. It's been fabulous to watch him.
Saying in the live chat, suggesting it's Siebel. Not exactly, because he was discussing the setup. He was prepared for this wet race, and then once we got going, I think he then assumed it was going to be a restart because of how soon we readied up. So still somebody else involved in this. Oh my words, you can't just turn in like he's not there, Samuel Barker. Oh, that was a little bit naughty. Nico was entitled to some space there, and again, QRT might well be facing a steward's inquiry. A lot of teams might well be facing a steward's inquiry. As down the inside goes Nico Rassenberg. Samuel Barker trying to find some average speed around the outside of that corner. Still wheel to wheel now through the triple right-hander. Nico losing time on the exit there. He's got some wing damage himself. That might have been caused by the Williams cutting him short at turn 12. Then he gets a poor exit now, Samuel Barker. And that will be decided there with Samuel Barker still in front of the Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what though, Quantum is now in the pits to get off of those wet tyres. He's now on an intermediate to the end of the race. I'm going to just say that is probably one of the best individual performances I've seen for being on the incorrect tyre for a good chunk of this race from Quantum. He has maximised everything he can from that wet tyre. He's had to pit a little bit earlier than perhaps he wanted to, but 11 to 28, a 16 lap stint on a set of intermediates is not going to be bad, and he could actually get a bit of a tyre delta versus everyone in front of him. The question is how quickly is he going to be able to get past this man in front of him, Turbo Toms. Now Turbo actually came in at the very last second for EVR. He had to serve a qualifying ban as a result of them changing their roster last second, so Turbo is just sort of managing his own race pace, and I think Quantum will want to get this one done as quick as he possibly can, because the gap in front of him after that is 6.5 seconds, and with a tyre delta of that significant margin, actually he could still gain some positions back.
Yeah, indeed. Still a long way to go in this race, and Quantum already showing that he has perhaps been driver of the day so far, holding that position for so long. Here comes a position, and it's past Turbo Toms, a late substitute in for EVR, who at the moment are scoring a couple of Legacy Division Championship points in P13. They've only got one to their name so far this season. We've still got to take a pit stop with Turbo Toms at some point, you'd think, and with Schumacher as well with the penalty. It's looking like they might well have another point this evening. Would be a shame to see, because I think they were quite well backed for some decent point scoring hauls this season with their shades of BRT in that team. But we do have an ex-BRT driver out in the lead, trying to spearhead their championship fight last season, trying to deliver SCI their third straight championship as the Shizou name this season. 10-second lead out in front as the action starts to calm down.
We've got Francesca Largo in the chat talking about a team called Team TF10. I don't know, I've never heard of them. Either way, Nico Rassenberg is trying to get as close as he possibly can till Samuel Barker. Now, Samuel Barker struggling like his co-compatriot in that 8th and 9th place respectively with track limits issues. So he'll be hoping that they continue on in their strong battle. While this is all happening, AMR's Flexus is getting up close and personal as well with them, and he might be in touching distance of potentially getting within the delta of their penalties at the moment as well, so that could be one to watch. While this is all happening, of course, ET8 now leading the way 3rd and 4th place respectively. I think their race is pretty much all done and dusted now, isn't it? The gap is just too much of a significant margin against the likes of the Shizou Cedar Igniters. They have got to commit to an undercut in the hope that the undercut is still powerful around this circuit. That's the question, isn't it, here, Joseph? Because, of course, the undercut is extremely powerful at this circuit, but is it completely neutralised when the rain starts to fall?
I think so. I think there's a lot more onus on the drivers here. We're seeing a few little mistakes, whether it's braking, whether it's turning, suffering with the understeer, and the setups not being changed quite to their liking. Don't think tyres are all that in these conditions, so we might see something between the two ET8 cars, giving us a bit of a dummy on what might happen with an earlier pit stop. Silo and Matteo now only separated by a second, which is getting interesting, as actually Matteo weaves out of the slipstream of Silo.
Sorry, I'm just following a battle at the moment down for P16 at the moment. Oh, between Lafiti and Caden, who are getting in a real scrap here between the pair of them. And now Lafiti goes off of the circuit. Caden takes a position back. So Lafiti, remember, he was racing quite well, but the wet tyres have fallen completely off the cliff. And I tell you what, the tyre delta, this is the problem. He pitted a lot earlier than everyone else, and his tyre delta is not that much far off compared to the likes of Caden. And as a result of that, he's actually stuck in a bunch of traffic that he would consider. So this is the issue. Lafiti was losing positions hand over fist. He's lost his bottle and he's decided to pit off of the wet tyres, and as a result of that one, he's now stuck in a bunch of traffic with a lack of tyre delta. Meanwhile, people like Quantum, yes, he's lost positions, but he has got a significant tyre delta. Remember, the gap was about 6.5 seconds when he made that move against Turbo. In just a very short period of time, he is now only 3 seconds behind Flexus, and that is a testament to that tyre delta. Quantum is actually, slowly but surely, welcoming himself back into this battle here.
Yeah, 10 laps is obviously a massively significant tyre delta. It remains to be seen what the tyre wear is of those that are yet to pit in this race. We'll find out more if we do get any information. Quantum welcoming himself back into a fight for some big points here this evening. Battle now for P13. Contact between the two EVR cars. Whoa, someone's got to intervene in that. And a slide on the exit for Turbo Toms, who is really struggling on the old intermediates. That was close to being race ending for the pair of them. Wheel banging now with Caden, who has just been involved with that fight with Lafitte. Down the inside he goes at turn 15, and that is wheel hooking, if I've ever seen it, from Turbo Toms. Now Lafitte will try and get back in the fight, but just getting quashed in the dirty air of the car in front, trying to find some grip and traction, coming through the triple right-hander. ETA have swapped position. Matteo is ahead of Silo. That's on the exit of turn 1.
We've got our first pit stops then of people following the usual pit stop window. It's Dom who is now pitted, and Samuel Barker for QRT as well has also pitted. I tell you what, EVR are not helping themselves at all there. Schumacher did not need to be that aggressive with his teammate because, of course, the tie delta between the pair of them is quite significant of 7 and 13 laps, and as a result, he's just put Turbo Toms in a horrible position of having to battle with Caden, which means that he's now having to battle with Lafitte, who gets the move done, no issue at all. Now, Turbo Toms didn't need to be in that position. Unfortunately, Schumacher kind of made his precedent set over at EVR and is now up to P12 on 7-lap old hard tyres. In front of him, Dom has just pitted, so the tyre delta is going to be significant for those who have not pitted yet. In front of him, though, is Gavroche, who's earlier on the brakes. Then Dom are going through that corner, and that might have just caught Dom off guard, and that is going to be something he needs to keep a very firm eye on, especially into the hard braking zones. Onto the wet part of the circuit, try and keep the tyres as cool as he possibly can. He might have to go around the outside of the next corner, but he is getting closer and closer. It will go around the outside, will the Racing Bull, but he's not going to put too much pressure, although it will do because it's a switchback here against Gavroche. Around the outside they will go. This will be one hell of a move, but they bang wheels, and off of the circuit Dom will go. So Gavroche will hold on while this is all happening. Quantum and Flexus are getting in their own battle, but they were both off of the circuit. I'm wondering if Quantum's actually going to give this position back to Flexus here, or if he's just going to get on with it. Either way, looks like he is just going to get on with it. Gap now around about 5 seconds to Rassenberg with an extremely good tyre delta, actually. So this is an opportunity here for Quantum. Gap around 5 seconds with a good tyre delta. Everyone else in front of him still yet to pit. I'd keep a very firm eye on this man here.
38 seconds off the lead, which tells you how well Justin is going at this stage. 26 off of Oscar, so he's kind of there or thereabouts in threatening that pit stop range for
could be
the
P3.
SCI man.
Could be,
yeah, I think P3
I
in
think
between them.
Yeah, the maths couldn't work it out. Sorry to interrupt on that one, Joseph, but I think just
right.
doing the maths on that one, I think the gap is around about 22 seconds for a pit stop around here. If my math works out right, he's actually going to get the jump on both of the ETA drivers as it stands here. Of course, Quantum does have a tyre delta which is slowly but surely growing, whilst of course they continue to commit to the overcut, but of course they will have to race with Quantum, who has actually shown he is willing to race very well even if he's on the wrong tyre. So actually a little bit of an inspired drive so far from the FRT man.
Yeah, it will give ETA a little bit of a headache, actually, because they'll know they will have to do the work again in trying to breeze past Quantum. Well, nobody really breezed past that man. He was flying on the wet tyres he didn't want to be on. So, again, you've got to give full credit to him for that. Gavroche ahead of Dom, but Dom, of course, with a 4-lap tyre advantage over Gavroche. He's already got past Flexus as Gavroche, but now has another sister car in his wing mirrors, so one to keep up an eye out on in P9.
Just keeping a firm eye on Schumacher at the moment, who's actually losing time, hand over fist to Caden, who's really able to get so much later on the brakes. Rayan Bakar is now in. It's one of the first runners again to decide to pit as per the normal sort of pit stop window. But his teammate, Nico Rassenberg, is doing exactly the same thing. So willing to double stack. It's not going to be a huge double stack though from RSC. So in the pit lane they'll go. It was slowed up ever so slightly, so there will be a few tenths loss for Nico Rassenberg, but it's not going to be of significant margin. RSC would rather have both of their drivers be in the same position while this is all happening. We have got a very strong battle happening down in the midfield, and that's between the likes of Turbo Tom, Samuel Barker and Nico. And there goes the late breaker, but it's going to be a front and then a rear lockup from Samuel Barker. This is the Quest Racing team getting the move done on Turbo Toms, who is now up to P13. Nico will also try to get this move done. Surely not through these set of S's though, through the right, through the left. How much traction has Nico got versus Turbo Toms? Turbo Toms, of course, on a set of intermediates that he started on, so you can see the tyre delta is quite significant at the top of the hill. He'll go for the move, loses the rear, and time being lost. Hand over fist for Nico, who'll try and get this move done. Surely going into the main straight here. He's going to go, surely got to get this move done as quick as he possibly can. Later on the brakes, and no surprises. Wants to get this one done and dusted, and easily gets the move done on Turbo Toms, who's got absolutely no traction on whatsoever as the EVR man.
Into slick territory there for Turbo Toms. I don't know why he's going for this again. I'm not sure what he's playing for in this race. Perhaps just to be a nuisance, I don't know, but this will really, really upset QRT because it's just the track. This is poor from Turbo Toms. I mean, I criticised him a few laps ago for what looked like tyre hooking when perhaps it was a little bit unnecessary. He's well within his right to do this, by the way, but there's racing etiquette when it comes to older tyres, and this is not it, I must say.
No, I don't know. I think it's fun, me. I think when someone wants to just sort of play a little bit of havoc, they're more than welcome to do so. He's every right to do so, even if it is, I think, what can only be described as a bit rude, to be honest with you. But Turbo Tom's surely going to be diving into the pit lane imminently. No, he's not. He's actually battling with Nico Rassenberg around the outside where the RSC man will go. He has no DRS, of course, but this would be where the DRS has happened. Turbo Tom's actually getting the better traction out of the corner as a result of being on the curb for Nico Rassenberg, so he'll have to go for the late breaker going into turn one, and that's certainly what Nico Rassenberg has gone for. But he's surely going to get the switch back, will Turbo Toms, but he's got no traction because the tyre delta's so significant. Even though he locked up, Rassenberg takes P15. Turbo Toms has got to pit the end of this lap.
Nico went full lock there, I think, turning left just to get the car stopped. Amazed he didn't spin out or lock the rear axle there. Really, really impressed with how he's got that slowed down. That is what I call a bit of fun in this race, I must say. Dom now 3 tenths behind Gavros. Leo Tonelato has just come into the pit lane and he's rejoined in P6. So actually now he's trying to close down Quantum, who in turn is 16 seconds still behind Silo. Also another thing to look out for is Matteo. He's starting to close the gap on Oscar. Really, really anticipating some pit stop activity soon, unless these guys are pretty certain that they can get to the end of the race on one set of intermediate tyres, or they're just waiting for a bit more activity. Right, Silo comes into the pit lane. He is reacting to what Leo Tonelato is doing, as he may well be undercut here.
Surely we're not going to be heading into the main race where everyone had to do a one-stop in this main race. Surely we're not going to see a no-stop in the main race. That would be absolutely bonkers if that ends up occurring. The sprint race, we saw the minimum of 1. Ray in the car now with a 3-second time penalty. If we see no stops, that would be absolutely magnificent. But at a circuit with high degradation, surely that isn't possible. Quantum and Silo now changing positions. Of course, Quantum getting the jump. I think Matteo not just also concerned about the latter stages of this one, but I'm also thinking he's a little bit concerned actually potentially about Quantum's pace here. Now the gap, the tie delta will be 7 laps for Silo. If Matteo pits, it will be 8 for him. Quantum is very aware now he's got 10 laps to go, so 17 lap stint for these intermediate tyres to go. He will probably get the jump on Matteo. It'll probably be a gap of around about 4 seconds, but of course those fresh intermediate tyres are going to feel so much nicer, and Quantum is going to now be wondering if P3 is still on the cards.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it now, does it? It's becoming increasingly more unlikely. Silo's actually done the right thing. He's responded not to be undercut, you know, for whatever reason, by Leo. And of course, he's still got the tyre delta by 7 laps to surely chase down Quantum, who'll be struggling again towards the back end of this race. The top 3 really can slow down to a crawl and maybe get to the end if the tyre wear allows. But as I say that, Justin has peeled off into the pit lane and make his one and only pit stop. You'd think if the rain stays here in this race, Oscar stays out and Matteo comes into the pit lane as well. He will come out about 3-4 seconds ahead of Silo, which is about where he was, so he'll come out really, really close to Quantum. Keep an eye on this.
Yeah, Matteo is now just leading the pit lane. Oscar will then assume the lead of this race. We assume that Oscar will be pitting at the end of his lap now. Quantum just coming across the line now, so we should expect him to beat Matteo out of the line now. So there's Matteo just leaving the pit lane right now. You'll see him just to the left of your screen, but it is actually a lot closer than perhaps Quantum originally thought. A later breaker from Matteo. He wants to get this one done, and this is what I mean. Matteo knew that Quantum was going to be a threat, so for a couple of laps he went into full qualifying spec, but unfortunately it's just not working work. So Quantum will get the jump on both of the ET8 men. The question is, will he be able to make these intermediates last and critically stay in front of both of the Alpine Renaults, because this would be a really big points haul once again for FRT.
Yeah, Oscar needs to pit now as well to come out ahead of this fight, I think by perhaps a couple of seconds if we're looking at the pit stop times. Matteo, though, has to get this done quickly and efficiently because Quantum has been a difficult driver to overtake all race, even on wet tyres when he didn't need them earlier on. Here we go then with Matteo in the slipstream. No DRS, of course, in these treacherous conditions. He goes to the outside line. Quantum, though, holding the inside. And then without the slipstream, you could see Matteo just slowed down and didn't quite have the top-end speed to go and overtake the Brit. Here he goes then with the up and under. Might have taken a warning for that. A bit of contact with the rear right tyre of Quantum, who's done nothing wrong there. Defends to the inside again, and surely he will stay ahead on lap 19.
I'm not sure if we can actually hear Sieb at the moment as well. He's obviously frustrated after retiring from this race unnecessarily, so apologies if you can hear him. We are trying to get him to mute his mic or just to leave the lobby. Matteo is still stuck behind Quantum. Oscar now entering into the pit lane here. In fact, he's just leaving the pit lane rather. He's not going to. Quantum's not going to get Oscar. It's going to be a margin, but I would expect that Quantum is going to try and defend as hard as he can versus Matteo. Goes for the late breaker down the inside line then of turn 1 after getting the switch and cutting Quantum out completely. But he has got just enough traction on those intermediate tyres, has Quantum, to go side by side with Matteo. But Matteo has got the grip down the inside line, and Matteo has shown a class above the other against Quantum, who is now relegated to P4. Silo will now try and get as close as he possibly can, but Quantum was definitely completely caught napping there by a man who is a champion, not by mistake.
I must have a third commentator, by the way. Welcome, Steve. Nice to hear from you. He's still going in this race. In some respects, he's washing on for Phil, who's not had a great race himself, I must say, just on the topic of IRT. I can see him in the bottom left, but luckily I cannot hear what he's saying, but I'd love to know what he is. Quantum, though, now has to look at Silo, who has seen where the weaknesses are. He's been spectating this battle between Matteo and Quantum, and in about a lap or two's time, you should expect the second ET8 car to overtake Matteo. As SCI, well, we know they've got this wrapped up. They did on lap 1. They did as soon as Quantum really threw a spanner in the works. Not his fault, he was on the wet tyres. But yeah, Justin's got away. Oscar's just crawling around at this point. Justin's still setting purple laps. These conditions belong to him as we have a battle now for P7 as Gavroche gets pinched on the inside of the triple right-hander. Can he get through? No, not quite. As the tyres tangle, and now Ryan's getting interested.
So, here we go then. So we've got that little sort of intense battle at the moment with Gavroche and Dom getting in the mix. Then you got Ryan Bakar also trying his hardest to get a side-by-side. It's really good stuff actually from them as well. As Ryan Bakar just not able to get the traction out of the corner, so Dom will then continue on his battle. Will he get close enough to Gavroche to go for the late breaker? It's Daniel Ricciardo late breaker, but he ends up catching the back of the Red Bull, and the Racing Bull is now relegated to P9. It was very late, it was opportunistic at best, and Ryan Bakar, the RSC man, now up to P8 in that little battle for P7, but of course Bakar has got that time penalty, which could be fairly critical indeed. We'll keep an eye out on Silo as well, as by the way, Sieb has just received the message to mute his microphone, and he is doing exactly that one now in that one, so we won't need for me to pause and interrupt what is turning out to be a little interesting affair now occurring here in the United States. 7 laps to go in this race. Silo is getting closer and closer to the back of the FRT man, as Sieb is making it abundantly clear he is now definitely out of the lobby.
I was quite enjoying that. I couldn't hear him anyway, just for the record. I don't commentate with the game sound. So for everybody saying, mute him, well, I didn't really have to. It was up to you if you wanted to, but obviously it's another source of entertainment in this mixed bag of a race, I must say, as we approach the back end of it now. Silo still putting Quantum under some pressure. Quantum's battery situation much better, so it might take Silo longer than it did Matteo to get past here. Quantum still fighting for a legitimate P4.
Yeah, great effort from the FRT, man, to be fair. And FRT are in a bit of a weird situation at the moment, to be honest with you. They've got one driver sort of hovering in and around the podium positions, and you've got one suffering for the scrap of points. And that's basically been their season from the get-go, has FRT. So hopefully they'll have both of their drivers a little bit higher up in the standings. We've seen a bit like, this is what exactly Shazoo ended up doing before ended up winning their first title, actually, wasn't it? It was very much one driver at the front, one driver at the back scenario, and that is not the way to win championship nowadays in this league. Going through the Cervezas, then you can see the grip is just so much more significant for Silo as the intermediates start to wear a little bit thin for Quantum now down in P4. You can see there the rear, the front just not connecting at all on that McLaren MasterCard, and he'll just try his hardest now to go for the inside line of the next corner. Will he go for it on this occasion? Silo will not, but he's able to brake so much later and actually get on the power so much earlier than Quantum, and I have a gut feeling here that this one actually might be a bit closer. He dives straight to the inside line, does Quantum, onto the wet stuff. Turbo Tom's just retired from the session, retired in the pit lane, so there's no risk of a safety car on this occasion. Silo not going for the move on this occasion, but once again, look how much later on the brakes he can go.
And that's the battery. Silo was derating at the start of the straight, hasn't really had the opportunity to recharge the battery. You'll see in a moment we'll go to reduced harvesting. There we go, just clicks in there at turn 15, and he'll basically regain nothing all the way through the end of the lap. There's a couple of big braking zones as well, especially into the last corner where you would expect some more battery to be harvested. Quantum will have the same, but because he's already ahead on the battery front, it shouldn't really make too much of a difference to him. He's getting the call, and I think he did down the back straight, that he didn't need to burn because Silo was always going to run out of charge there, and he deploys straight away immediately. Does Silo, trying to get this move done using the slipstream, and down the inside into turn 1. Silo brakes later, and can he get the position into turn 1? Quantum giving it absolutely everything to try and defend here, and then he gets loose on the apex of turn 2. Well reacted by Silo. They're still side by side. Quantum gets ahead as Silo backs out. This is brilliant, you must say.
Yeah, no, fabulous stuff from Quantum. He's learnt his lesson from the battle with Matteo, actually. He's decided to make it look like he wasn't going to defend too aggressively into turn 1, but by doing that, he had the inside of turn 2, which was going to always allow him the advantage, obviously, because it means that he's got the racing line going through into turn 3, and as a result, Silo wasn't able to make any inroads. Now, he's actually struggling for electrical energy still, is Silo here, so he'll use overtake out of the corner, surely, and then he will try and get as close as he can, but there's so much more power available for Quantum, and while this is happening, Silo is going to start looking behind him because the HR driver of Leo is actually starting to now creep up on the pair of them. So that suddenly what looked like to be a little bit of a no man's land sort of situation for the Hadrick Racing driver, suddenly there's potentially a P4 on the cards now for the Aston Martin.
Only a lap older tyres than Silo as well, so now becoming a three-way fight for P4. 5 laps to go then as Justin crosses the line with yet another purple lap. I don't think anybody was stopping him this evening, no matter what the situation was going to turn out with the whole readying up debacle that we had at the start of this race. Silo then tried once at turn 1. Will he try again? I don't think he's as close this time, because of how far he dropped back from that battle that cost him just a lap ago. Here we go then, deploying once more. Will he go to the inside? He's gaining a little bit, but not enough towards turn 1. Again, Leo closing in, really, really confident on the brakes when perhaps Silo isn't. So, just keep an eye on the strengths and weaknesses. Quantum's weakness is the tyres. His strength is unbelievable defensive effort this race.
Yeah, fantastic stuff actually, and I think Rev Caterpillar sums it up perfectly actually, which is the MasterCard sponsorship gives you 2/10, and you know what that is, Joseph? Priceless. So Quantum is doing the best he can. I'm sorry. Quantum is doing the best that he can here, but you can see going at the top of the hill, really struggling out there at the moment up the hill. But then, of course, when he goes into this corner, you can see again defending to the inside line. He just wants to make sure there is absolutely no possibility of a gap opening up, but he's a lot closer, is Silo on this occasion. He might actually be able to get close enough here. That move is on, but straight to the inside line here for Quantum. Leo is backed off a little bit in this one, so this is the battle for P4 between the pair of them. He'll go later on the brakes, but once again, defensive move there, but he's got too late on the brakes, and Quantum may have cost himself a big time time here. He'll dive to the inside and they'll bang wheels through here. Therefore, the traction is not going to be on the favour of the Alpine. He'll go for the late breaker, surely down the inside, but defended immediately from the Alpine. He'll not have the traction off camber, but he won't have the traction as a result of being on the old tyre. Quantum was caught off guard completely on a later breaker. He left the gap open, and Silo happy to swallow that one up. Sorry, mate. We said it was priceless. It's cost him big time, and now it is into P5. Leo will be hoping here. P5 is on the cards now for the HR driver as they start the 26th lap of their race.
Take a risk at turn 14, didn't he? Just tried to dive down the inside, but perhaps the gap was closing. And in doing so, almost cost himself a position. And Leo Tonelato goes down the inside. Oh my word, that is sensational. And he's got it done in one sitting. The Aston Martin dives the McLaren. He's up into P5. That is brilliant from Leo Tonelato. He wasn't hanging about and just took the first opportunity he had to send it.
Yeah, absolutely caught me off guard as well. I wasn't expecting him to go that early. I wasn't even on him at that point. It's a great move from Leo in the end to go for that one. Completely caught Quantum off guard as his teammates actually just retired in the pit lane. So FRT will finish with just the one driver in 6th place. Gav Roche is behind on 15-lap old intermediate tyres. So Quantum will consolidate as actually a really solid P6 finish, considering the situation with someone readying up too early, to start on the wet tyre and still finish in 6th place is actually a decent effort indeed from the FRT man. So far it's now going to be all about what the likes of Leo can do. Can he keep within touching distance of Silo? Can he potentially cost ETA some points, or will ETA sort of manage to navigate a P3 and a P4 finish, I wonder? The closest battle out on track at the moment is actually the battle for P8 at the moment between Ryan Bakar and Dom. We've also got Ryan Bakar getting close to Gav Roche as well. Of course, it's on the older set of intermediate tyres here, so Gav Roche will do the best he can to hold on to P7.
Indeed. Hadrick Racing now chasing down their first, big points finish of the season. Best result so far, P8, and now going for a P4 with 3 laps to go in this race. And Simon will be worried because he would have seen that move again at the first time of asking and thinking, oh my god, that was quick. Right, let's try and get away here. And, well, with only a second between them, this might well come down to the final lap then. Xbox from 4 PlayStation drivers in this top 5, as Jay rightly points out in the live chat.
Oh, later breaker.
Climax here, Ryan, wow.
So late on the brakes, they went into turn 1, but Gav Roche had that one covered. 16-lap old intermediate tyres versus 10 versus 12. Changing positions happening between Nico Rassenberg and Schumacher going happen at 2-1. Schumacher really forcing him up onto the curbs there. And Nico Rassenberg still has the inside line though. And so much more traction versus Schumacher's 19-lap old intermediate tyres. He's starting to fall completely off a cliff now. And Team QRT at 12th and 13th place are getting closer to potentially get that move done on Schumacher. So it might be 11th to 12th place for the team, for Quest Racing team on their second race in WOR Legacy Division. Here they come then out of the corner. Schumacher absolutely no grip whatsoever on what is now effectively a slick tyre for that intermediate. Is Nico going to go for the dive? He certainly will. Big lock up from Schumacher. They bang wheels going into the corner, but that move is done and dusted, and off the track they will go. Samuel Barker will hope that he's going to have much more traction versus Schumacher, of course, who was off of the circuit, but looks like Schumacher's able to just hold on. Surely not going to go for the dive here though on these old intermediate tyres. He'll have to consolidate P12. He is trying to get up there. He's going to end up potentially getting very close. I'm not sure what Schumacher was thinking going that late on the brakes, because he's only just invited Samuel Barker around the outside. He could go for the switchback here because Schumacher is plainly under a lot of pressure and actually feeling a little bit more frustrated potentially. Later breaker, down the inside they will go. The gap is still there, but he will have the traction. They bang wheels and they're hooked wheels going through there, and there they will happen. And Lafitte will get the double jump effectively on the front of them as a result of that one. Tyre hooking between Schumacher and Barker. Schumacher completely off of the circuit. I think that's his race done and dusted. Surely into the pit lane, and he will probably retire, I think, out of pure frustration. Here will the Kick Sauber. No, he's going to continue on. Fair play to him. Lap 27 of 28. Not too long to go left in this one, Joseph. We've got to have a question about who the driver of the day is in this one.
Immediately, I'm going for Quantum purely on an entertainment and, of course, unlikely strategy basis here. Obviously, he didn't want to start on the wets. He's been defending for a long, long time. He's still up in the top 6 when Others on the wet tyres maybe just, again, sacrificed themselves too early, were trying a bit too hard. And then, of course, had to take the earlier pit stop than what Quantum managed. Of course, we will never really know the true story about the readying up stuff. Immediately, he is the entertainment pick, but Justin's just been setting purple lap after purple lap. Nobody has had an answer to him. He was prepared from the minute he saw rainfall, and from with 1 lap to go, I almost thought it was the final lap then. I was going to say, not already. Still got 1 more lap to navigate, and of course, to make history.
What a fabulous race it has been from this man. He has got plenty of track still ahead of him, though, and any mistake that occurs could cost him dearly, especially with the sliding conditions. But to be honest with you, the one and only mistake that Justin will make, hopefully, it's not going to be anything critical, but I don't think he'll make a mistake. He's been so consistent throughout this particular race. It's been fabulous to watch. We've still got racing happening, by the way, for P12 and 13, as Lafitti's just got past Samuel Barker, as Lafitti's made a little bit of a mistake, missed his apex, going through that left-hander, so Samuel Barker will continue to get closer and closer, but these old intermediate tyres for Lafitti not working at all in his favour down in P12. Remember, of course, everyone down from P10 downwards has got a time penalty except Flexus, so if everything falls in his favour, he could gain a position or two here as it stands for the AMR driver if he just keeps it clean. Justin is just heading down the main straight at the moment, still battling at the moment. Here is Flexus actually getting close to the back of this battle with the likes of Samuel Barker and Lafitti. They're still going side by side, going through into turn 1. Here goes a little bit of a gap there, and you can see the intermediate tyres just not working at all in the favour of the Red Bull man, so they'll go side by side, going through turn number 2. They'll go through to turn number 3. Surely Samuel Barker's got this one done. They'll go side by side. It's so close between the pair of them, but there you go. Lafitti hasn't got any tyre left whatsoever, and QRT have now got 11th and 12th respectively. We'll have to go back with Justin. He's going through the treble right-hander, though. It's been a fabulous race from start to finish for this entire race weekend, though, from SCI Justin. And the Shizou Cedar Igniters were being questioned after being rebranded. Are we going to be able to keep our championship hopes alive? Well, with this performance, they certainly will. A great performance from Justin, who wins by over 15 seconds to his teammate Oscar, who is just now approaching the final couple of corners. What a great performance it has been from the Scottish outfit. They'll be so happy with their performance from a 1-2 for them. Matteo will finish in P3. It's a valiant effort from him. Silo will finish in the end in front of Leo, and HR will be happy to hear that they've actually got a driver in the top 5. Great performance from them. Quantum finishes in the end in P6. It was a valiant effort after starting on the incorrect tyre. They'll be happy, I think, we'll have RT with a P6 finish. It's still battle for P7, though. Later down the brakes from Ray and Bakar. They go side by side with Gavroche, who's off of the circuit, and at the last corner, Rayan gets P7, but after the time penalties applied, Gavroche will keep the position from Dom, from Rayan. Nico Rassenberg will finish into the top 10 in the end in this one, so it will be at least a top 10 finish. Oh no, it won't be actually after time penalties applied. Nico will take P10 out of the hands. It will be a top 10 finish for QRT, and then Samuel Barker will lose positions to Flexus, who finishes in P12. Schumacher in the end will finish in a lowly position of P15 and a singular point on the cards for the EVR team. Of course, Turbo Tom's retiring from this race. Of course, IRT Phil will round out the top 16 who've managed to finish this race. But for me, the driver of the day performance has got to go to this man, Justin. It won't be the driver of the day performance that we will see from the game, but for me, just the pace, the raw pace from this man has been absolutely fabulous to watch for this entire race weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, people were very quick to cherry pick what I was saying. There's an entertainment value. There's an entertainment driver of the day. We often see cars out of the race because they've done something spectacular that's warranted them third or second, or even in some cases driver of the day. But Justin, when you do not see a driver because he has been that dominant, it usually means they are the driver of the day. Quite usually. And there we go. He lifts the trophy for the second ever time at this circuit. He won it in Season 5. He wins it in Season 6. The first ever driver to take a victory at the same track twice in the WR Legacy Division. As a result, SCI race into a 28-point championship lead over ET8. And that, well, is pretty significant at this stage after they've been glued together for a couple of rounds now. But ET8, again, damage limitation, third and fourth.
Yeah, fabulous stuff from the get-go from SCI. I've got a gut feeling we're not going to see the results of this race, which is disappointing because it'd be interesting to go through it. But a great performance from SCI, and of course Justin to take that win by over 15 seconds, and also taking the record as well as the first driver ever to win at the same track twice in Legacy Division. It's only took 6 seasons to do that. Can you believe it? What a great race that was in the end. Of course, we will be taking a lovely trip over to Azerbaijan next week out. Of course, that one could have a little bit of rain in it as well. Then absolutely zero chance of rain following that a week later in Qatar. We'll be taking a week break before we go to Mexico. Then we've got the treble header of Austria, Netherlands and Britain reverse with their respective sprint races in the forward direction. Then, of course, it is Imola for round number 10. And then your final stint, Miami, Japan, Italy, Saudi Arabia, before we wrap it up just before Christmas in Abu Dhabi. Joseph, great race in the end, a very mixed race. No surprises, SCI followed by ET8. That's sort of kind of what we expected, but an individual performance from Justin that just meets absolutely no one. What a fabulous race from him.
Yeah, that's a statement, and it's one of those performances where you can change the circumstances surrounding the race, but you cannot change the winner. Justin was on it, and he was setting purples all throughout the race. Used tyres, fresh tyres. He had absolutely all aspects of the wet race track covered this evening, and he deserves a lot of credit for that indeed. Oscar, as soon as he got past Quantum and he saw the gaps behind him, he didn't really need to push on. He won last week. He's perfectly fine, doing his 2 out of 2 races for the first part of the season and going, you know what, first and a second place, that is me done until after the transfer window, unless he gets granted, of course, that 3rd round. We will soon see on that. But yeah, Oscar equally as impressive this evening. ET8, I think the qualifying let them down mainly, and then of course their efficiency of the overtakes never really got close to SCI, and well, that was about it for their race really.
If you remember as well, last season out we were talking about Justin when he was a BRT driver as being sort of like second in command, probably a reserve driver, not leading the front. He's gone to SCI and he's absolutely owned it, and if that's anything to go by, this season is going to be absolutely fabulous for the Shazoo Cedar Igniter. I'm also seeing in the chat as well, and I don't know whether this is just banter or not, we'll get clarification on it, but ET8 are actually blaming Justin for readying up too early. So if it is him, and I don't think he'll face any wrath of the stewards, but I don't think they'll face any wrath from the stewards. There's no rule about it, but I've got no doubt that Luke will be considering potentially a rule about readying up too early. People are very keen to get going in this one because it's 2 out of 3 races. People have readied up too early in this one, and hopefully they're not going to ready up too early for Azerbaijan next weekend out. Before we wrap this one up, Joseph, what's the expectation for Azerbaijan? Completely different circuit, very low downforce, so we're expecting people to be perhaps ultra aggressive.
Yeah, again, we've seen on the sort of 90-degree corners here this evening just how, we'll say the aggression boils over a little bit. I mean, we see the tyre hooking, we see cars running themselves off the track, and, well, give it Baku, you'd hope that people recognise it's walls that are the limit of the circuit, but you don't always see that. So, again, I hope it's not one of those races where we have to kind of issue a sort of somber end to it and go, this was awful. I hope it is the complete opposite of that. But again, historically, I think we've seen ET8 do pretty well there in the past. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. No, they've never won there. That's my fault. It was CPI that won last season, but to be honest, I don't know what to expect from Azerbaijan. We'll come to that next week. So
we're just waiting on the points to be added. In fact, I think the points are now being added, and they are done. So, full confirmation then that the Shazoo Cedar Igniters are 29 points in front of ET8, and then just a little bit under 100 points behind is FRT. So FRT managing to take P3 out of the hands of Ventauri once again by just that singular point, 72 versus 71. 20 points behind is QRT. Then you've got HR, RSC, IRT, AMR, and then at the foot of the table, EVR managing to get another point on the cards for their second 15th place finish of this season. Every other position was a DNF. So a lot of learnings to take for all of the drivers going into Azerbaijan. Should be an absolute cracker. One thing is for certain, though, is that we're going to be there, and hopefully you will too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time over in Baku for what will be round number 4 of Season 6 of WOR Legacy Division. Take care. Ta-ra.